welcome back to Scrap with Penny. It is the last day of school here where I live, and Monday is Memorial Day in the U.S., and that is all things summer. And this morning I woke up and I was thinking about that old, I guess maybe it was a commercial, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. And I have shared that I'm working on my 2021 photos. I'll look real quick and show you. This is a printout of Trello, and I've hidden all the stories that I have told. And so these are the stories that are left to tell. And I came up with a fun way to pick what I was going to work on next. And the result was baseball. Now, we are not baseball fans. I can talk NFL football all day long. I could talk, well, probably about any team. But it's a good little story, and I'm going to document it, and that's fine. We have played with this sketch 2 other times. One time, this is March 2024. One time, we ran the pattern paper on the bottom, and then the other day we ran the pattern paper on the top, and now we're going to do a side. So this will be basically 12 by 6, and the sketch shows a little thin margin on the outside, so you know that's got my name written all over it. I just have 2 photos. I'm not going to keep referring to this because a sketch doesn't really get any easier than this. I've got 2 photos, and I printed these kind of a weird size, but that's what you can do when you print at home. 5, 3.5. I tried a 3 by 5, but it was too narrow on this picture of the group of us, and so I just jimmied it up a little. 3.5 by 5. And I'm thinking that these 2 pictures will mat on this blue basil. And so then I went to my very small, very paltry baseball paper. Like I said, we don't go that often. I found some inspiration on this. This is Bella Boulevard. I opted out of all of these. In fact, I may work this piece of paper into my Cowboys football paper because that's a nice paper for that. Let's see. Oh, I bought a lot of this red. Well, you know what? It can work into July 4th. I used to get tickets through my job, and then Steve got some tickets from his mall, but he's changed malls, and I don't think, I don't know if we'll be going again. But I had seen this Cartabella when it released, and I grabbed some of it. So this is kind of what I'm thinking. And I'm hoping I can do a really quick page. So these are the papers. I might cut that out for a layering element behind my title or something. I'm not sure. But the flip side of this is that. And the Rangers colors are red, white, and blue, which is why I picked this up. And then for my background, I pulled the Cartabella cardstock in the natural linen and in the felt, what they call the felt. And I said the other day, whenever I can use this cream paper, I want to use it. So in this case, I kind of think I'm leaning more toward the orange felt. It seems to work a little better. So seriously, this is what we're going to go with. And so on a 12, I'll come in probably 3/8, so that's 6/8, which is 1 1/4. I think, which means my paper could be 10.75 wide, so that would be to right here. So sometimes when I'm trying to get a visual for what it would look like before I cut it, I'll just come in like this. And I don't want that much of the pattern paper. I will show you that I didn't care for this side, so that's why I'm going with this side. And I was thinking if I kind of went to the second inning, and now let's see how much. I want some more of this. This big busy print is where the money is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 3/4. That would not be wide enough for my photo, which means my photo will come over here. So I'll have to come over a little bit more. And that's 5. That'd be about 5 inches of this showing, which that would be about right. Well, see, here's the deal on this picture. I can't go any smaller than this, but we'll make it work somehow. Okay, so then the other thing I was thinking was on the border here, like somewhere in this area, I thought about a border punch, and I was like, I don't really have any baseball border punches, but I thought, what if I got a little circle punch and I punched all these out, and then I emulated it, you know, right down here, so all the little baseballs. This blue doesn't match, and I've already got the navy and the line going on. I'm going to bring in this royal blue from the Rangers, and I didn't want a third blue really competing. And I don't have the sticker sheet for this, but I can do a little hybrid print job. And so what I'm going to do more than likely is go out to the digital site for Cartabella and grab some elements, and then I can dress this up a little bit. I've got my journaling printed. It's on white. I'm not concerned about that. I'm probably going to leave a small white margin around these pictures, so that ties in some more white. And I'm okay, you know, because there's different hues of this cream already anyway. So that is where we're headed. And I wonder, do you like baseball? Do you go to baseball? I realize that I'm probably the aberration because it is supposedly the all-American sport. But I'm going to be honest and tell you that my dad was an avid Astros fan. And the thing about baseball is it's all the time. It's like it's all the time. And I just kind of got burned out on it in the 18 years that I lived at home with them. So, okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to trim my photos, and I'm going to mat them, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my paper, and we're going to get a loose form of this layout. So wouldn't it be fun if I could knock this out really quick? Stay tuned. So these papers cut, you know, real quick. My length is 11 3/8 of an inch, and that'll give me a little inset. And on the first paper, I just trimmed, you know, just barely picking up that 2. So while the sketch is like 12 by 6 and 12 by 6, I wanted a little bit more of this paper because, like I said, my pictures are so wide. So I'll square up these and then lay these on top. And here's my blue paper. I have these cardstock scrap binders on these art discs, and instead of cutting into a whole piece of paper, I wanted to flip and see if I had one already cut, and I do. So I'm pretty excited. I actually have 2 sheets of this. So I'll pull one of these and get my photos matted, and then tape this down. just real quick, I'm going to show you, I'm going to round these two corners. And this is using that large, very old Martha Stewart punch, but I love that it takes such a nice chunk of it out. And I think that'll be fun, and it'll kind of draw your eye over this way. My photos are matted, and what I love about this system is you just put it right back in and it's good to go, and it stays neat and tidy. So I use this section down here, down toward the bottom, to mat my photos. And this way I can save this fresh piece of paper for another day. I'm wondering if you've got Memorial Day plans. My husband is in retail, and so he will work on Monday. And my sister and her husband are coming up for the weekend to see my mom. I apologize. We went to see Stitch last night, and you know, we were gone a whole 2 hours, and the dogs acted like we were gone for 7 days. And my little one, my littlest one, she gave me a pretty good scrape. So it'll probably take it a month to heal. I had heart surgery in December, and the medicines I'm on have me with some challenges on things. So, okay. Very easy. And so what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut this little strip out, and then I'm going to punch out all of these baseballs. And I'll probably also go ahead and cut my journaling strips. This is the Hero Arts journaling die. Anytime you see journaling strips for me in the last 2 years, maybe, year and a half, it's coming from this. And so the spacing is uniform. This measures, I think, about 4 inches wide, 4 1/4. I didn't want my journaling to be that wide, so I just, you know, come in from the edge, and then that gives me some different lengths to stagger them for some interest. Real quick, I want to talk about if you happen to have a 12-inch Misty. I bought this back when the medium-sized one wasn't out because I thought the little one was too limiting. And I have shared these before. These are acrylic stamp corners, and my equidistant margin based on 11 3/8 would be 3/16 on each side. And so if you line this up in the corner, then you take your paper and you come in against it. And what the Misty does is it provides a really solid surface to bump up against. And then, you know, you don't have that over here. So you just would rotate, and it just makes a nice even margin, very quick and very easy. One other thing about trimming down this paper is by doing that, I got rid of some of the really grunge yellow cast at the edge. I don't think they always do this anymore, but you know, the thing is, if you wanted your edges inked, you could do that, but if you don't, you can only take it off by cutting. So that's just a little trick. If you have some grunge papers and you don't like this super distressed edge, come in off the full length, and then you can get rid of it some. One nice thing about this paper design is I'm going to go right up against that line on the paper, and it's going to help me with this. And I thought about cutting this dark blue off, but I think it adds a little, well, I know it adds a little definition between the baseball stitching and this background. So that's another hack, is if you're working with a paper that has a line on it, it sure makes it easy. On this, I just cut in from the edge, and I wanted a decent size margin on the other side of this stitch. And then on this stripe, I had said I think that it's 3/8 inches wide, and I'm just laying it down on top of the print so that you get a nice definition. And yeah, we've already seen this look. Let me go punch some baseballs. I have this little Marvy circle punch, and I did one test punch, and I think it's gonna work. I did not buy the sticker sheet for this. I think I said that in the last clip, but I did run out to Snap Click Supply, and for $2.99 I was able to buy an elements pack, and these are the elements out of it that I wanted. And I wanted you to see the reveal with me. So you bring those into a cameo mat on your cameo, and then you do an offset. You select all and do an offset. And right after this clip, I'll throw a screenshot up there where you can see the mat and the trace lines. So I thought this little guy would be really cute right down there. And he's gonna bring in my blue, my other color blue, and another color blue. So many blues. And on this, I was thinking it could layer up under there, but I'm not gonna place all of these right now. And here is my journal strips that are cut. So this, I had a longer piece of paper, but I always trim it before I run it through the die. And that way I don't waste the paper. And a girlfriend told me to save these, the first cuts for hand journaling sometimes, but I save them, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever use them. So what I'll do next is trim these off and get my embellishments placed. And I'm thinking on a title. I was looking at the back sides of the paper lines to see if there was any title that I could easily commandeer. This is the back side of that, nothing. Although maybe more paper for the Cowboys. The back side of the stripe is all of this. And I did like this, but I thought there's really no way. This is the phrase I was thinking about to begin with, play ball. But there's really no way in this size that you can put it on here up against this piece of the paper. And here's the other things on that sheet. So nothing there. Here's the baseball stitching. So you can see right here is where I trimmed off. Yeah, you can see the little trim there. And there's a whole lot going on here, but I don't think there's anything that, I mean, this might have some potential, but I don't know that I need anything else. And the other side of this is this. No title. I don't know if there's anything I can farm. So let me press on and get my journal strips. I'll trim them down, and then I back them with this 1mm foam strip from Scrapbook.com. I like it. I forgot to explain the little baseballs. So I had shown you that piece of Bella Boulevard earlier, and you know, it's got an offset, and when I went to punch the first one out, there's a little divot missing. And then when I laid it down, I thought, ooh, the blue is too noticeable. It just seemed like it was a lot. It was more than I wanted. So these little baseballs came in the element pack, and they go with everything better. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put them now that I have them, but I wanted them. So we're going to have to figure something out. Maybe just a little offset like that. But I want the stitching to show. So then I thought about, do I come over here? Stay tuned for that development. I think this is what I have going so far. And so the only thing that's open to do is to figure out my title. And I do want to say play ball. I moved this down here because I want my clusters to be like this visual element up here, which I'm not going to do anything with. And then look at this cute little ball player on top of this ticket. And then, so this would be my third element. And I plan on centering these up, splitting the difference. Part of the reason why I can't envision where it's going is I don't know if I want to do die cut alphas or if I want to do something on the cameo. I think I'll probably do something on the cameo for speed and versatility. Oh, but look, I was going to show you these little baseballs. They're so cute. And so I'm going to alternate them like we see right here. And so I'll come over this way for this feature. And then my hope is to be able to see some of the blue because I think it helps, helps them pop. And this white is helped out here. This is a little more white than the cream. And then this white is right here. And if I wanted to bring in more white, I could do a white offset on my title. So that is kind of where we're headed. I need to go out and play with my cameo fonts and see if I find something that screams baseball to me. And I feel like there's a lot of dead space in the picture. So I could go right in here and it would cover up his selfie arm and deal with some of this dead roof. And it would kind of marry up with this. I'm afraid if I put it here, which is kind of the natural spot for it if you're trying to avoid this, then this would just be one solid blah of, stuff. So I'm also toying with stitching, and I would stitch along the outer edges, I think, of the whole, I don't know if the whole thing or just maybe this. I don't know. I don't know if y'all are as indecisive as I am, but I always have a hard time. I can only kind of make the decisions as we go along. If you can see a layout from start to finish, I applaud you. I think it is looking good. Let me go work on the title. I have everything taped down except for the last letter of the title, and I was just gonna talk you through kind of how I did that. So in the silhouette, I cut my navy and then I cut 3 sets of the white to back it with so that you get some dimension. I want to say also that I had to go to Simple Stories to get a match for this Cartabella, and I found amusement in that. The Cartabella navy cardstock that I have and keep and use was nowhere near this midnight navy. I decided to put it between the 2 photos. I thought that made the most sense. Using my centering ruler, I centered up where it should go, and then I went back to my offcut to figure out where my B should go. I went this way, and then I'm coming back this way, and it looks like on this side. So I go navy to the white first, and then I've got a higher contrast on what to do. And I was using my tweezers to hold it the first time, but I'm far enough along now. They're not all perfect. You can see the white in them, and I'm actually okay with that because while I wanted the navy title, I realized that my roof was very dark, and so that was what made me definitely decide to go with a white backer. And then you just kind of squeeze them together, and this is where you can have a little bit of excess shadowing, but I feel good about it overall. And once I had my center, then I went to my T-square to make sure they were all lined up correctly. And I feel like as long as they're straight on the bottom, then all is well. This is what we're looking at. I thought the baseballs turned out really cute. And what I had talked about was letting the blue show behind it. And I think you get a good pop of that blue against it, and it ties in here. I'm thinking this is black up here. So I don't technically have any blue up here, but there's a dark color. I started off with this one, and then for each baseball, I just rotated it 25% of the way so that my baseballs have movement in two ways. The stitching moves and then they move. I think it turned out really cute. When I was placing them, I placed my first two here because, you know, I was working against this title. And then I placed this one here. And then I came to my center, which I think these two are my center ones. 2, 4, 6, 7, yeah. 2, 4, 6, 7. So then I came to my center, and of course I had to figure out which way they were going to go, and as far as the seams. And then I just kind of worked from here to here and here to here to even out the spacing. And I mean, it's not like this one's over farther, but I think that it's okay if it's a little random because, you know, after all, it's a baseball. I'll tell you that I might have had more fun with these baseballs than I had at the game. I really don't like baseball, so I'm sorry about that. So what's left to do is I'm fairly certain I'm going to stitch over here. The reason I'm thinking about it so much is that this paper is pretty plain and this is very busy and colorful. So I'm thinking if I have some texture over here, it balances out the visual weight of the layout. And it came together really quickly. I might need some glue right there. I love the glass board because you can just use the magnets to hold everything to let it go ahead and dry. And if I can just get the stitching, I think we'll be done. When I stitch, I always start with a pencil line, and I'm coming in at the first hash mark of this paper, and so what's that, 1/8 of an inch? So I'm going to draw a pencil line here. I'm not going to worry about trying to stitch behind this. And when I placed my journaling, I was very mindful of making sure I didn't have any journal strips that would come inside the stitching line, because then you've got extra planning to do. To stitch these corners, I'll actually cut a corner round and put it in there to draw the line. I wonder, do you stitch on your layouts? Do you hand stitch? It's one of my favorite things to do. I try not to go overboard with it. My husband watched the Disney Plus Andor series, and so now we're reliving all of the 80s Star Wars movies. And I wanted to know if any of you were listening to Jar Jar Binks tonight. He's a lot. He is a lot. I'm having trouble seeing this, so let me get a little piece of contrast. Let's see. There. That should help me. Well, now I need to stabilize this. My magnets are my extra hands all the time. I do try to get pretty precise on this, because for all my penchants and proclivities, I'm kind of a perfectionist, which can be problematic in the scrapbooking world. So I'm not going to make you watch me punch this and trace it. I do, after I get my pencil line drawn, I do go onto my mat and then I poke my holes. And I'll usually work from my corners out, because I think if you have a missed stitch here in the middle, it tends to show less. Whereas I think the corners are where people really seem to look, or at least it's where I look. I changed my mind. I am going to show you this. So I just used the corner of this cardstock that I cut the title out of to get my round corner, and then I just move it down to where the lines meet. So when I go to stitch this, I'll stitch here and here and then here and then probably here and here, here and here. Because on a corner you've got to be a little tighter or you don't see the turn. This one's a little harder because it's hidden. I also decided I'm not going to stitch the busy side of the paper, and that's largely to do with that little glove over there. I don't think I could do a good job with it. So this corner will be easier because it's hidden. So let me poke my holes. So that is it. The layout is all finished. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm ready to photograph it and file it away. The DMC color is 387. I always put that in the information. This is the only digital element that I printed and didn't use. The main reason why I didn't use it is because I wasn't thinking about the title, and I'm not going to have play ball on there twice. These acrylic corners, the Etsy shop I got them from is no longer selling them or selling anything, I don't think. But if you search for stamping acrylic corners, if you're interested in these, then you should be able to find some. They have a craft backer on them because they can be clear acrylic, but I choose to leave the craft on because I think it makes them a little easier to see. I had pulled this punch because I had thought about kind of a bunting effect here, and then I decided that was too much, so that's why this sat in the corner the whole time. And to take you back to our starting point of our sketch, this is the March 2024 sketch where you've got a 12x6 and a 12x6 with a border. So I mentioned at the beginning that this would be the third rotation I've done of it. So I thought I would pull out the other two. This was the first layout I did along that lines, and this was specifically for the Scrapbook and Cards Today Allison Davis Design Concepts class. And here I used a hexagon pattern on the bottom, just, you know, pretty much as it's presented, pattern paper on the bottom. And then I actually rounded the corners here too. I think that's a fun effect. The second layout I did with this design was rotating the pattern paper up to the top. And 4 photos here and 4 photos here. So you can do so much with one sketch. And if you ever have a layout that you like and you don't want to have a copy of it, then just take it and rotate it some, and it'll probably be a layout that you end up enjoying. So then the third layout is I rotated it. Okay, so here's the original. And then, goodness. Then I rotated it this much. And then here's the original, and I rotated it this much. So lots of mileage off of the idea. These hexagons took a while, obviously, to cut and stitch, but I've got some stray threads. But for the most part, these two came together pretty quick. Not a little more stitching on this one, but at any rate, I thought you might enjoy seeing the 3 of them together. And I don't think, if you were to look at them side by side, you would say that's the same sketch. I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional. I could very well be. Why isn't this moving over? Okay, so thanks for hanging out with me today and watching me create. I had a lot of fun. I can now check another layout off of my 2021 to-do list, and that is pretty exciting. So These are all, this is a 2024, this is a 2025. These won't go anywhere near one another in albums, and I don't think it would matter if they were right next to each other. On my stitching, I need to tape these down, so I'm sorry they're flapping. On my stitching, I went with the cream, kind of for a tone-on-tone. I briefly toyed with red to emulate the baseball, and I thought, no, that is just too much action. And I also had to laugh at myself because after talking about making sure your corners were correct, my corner up there got a little bit off. So I hope you've got some fun plans in the works. I hope you got to scrap along with me, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back soon with more layouts, videos, and a little stash busted magic. So please come back and crop with me. Until next time, happy scrapping, and remember, this is where paper meets story. Bye-bye.